Emergencies don't wait until you're ready. And when you're already struggling financially, one extra bill can make it feel like you're drowning. In today's episode, I'll break down how to build an emergency fund, what I call a freedom fund, even when your money is tight. And I'll also explain why it's the most powerful financial tool you can create. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unshackled for Life. We're unlocking prosperity and liberating wealth. And I'm your host, John Green. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Emergencies, they don't check your calendar. They don't ask if you have enough money in your account. They just show up. They're loud, they're messy, and oftentimes expensive. Welcome back to Unshackled for Life. I'm John Green, and today we're talking about something that has saved me more times than I can count: a freedom fund. It's another word for emergency fund, and it'll keep you from drowning whenever life hits hard. Things that we're going to talk about today, it's not about being perfect with money, it's about building peace, options, and dignity. And I'm not teaching theory today. Today, I'm teaching you what I've lived through. So let's start with the truth. Emergencies, they don't care about your budget at all. They don't care about your paycheck schedule. They don't care about any of your future plans. They just show up when you're already tired, you're already stretched thin, and you're already overwhelmed. And when you don't have a financial cushion, every emergency can feel like a personal failure. It's not a matter of just feeling broke. You feel guilty. You might feel ashamed or even inadequate. But when you do have a freedom fund, you're going to move differently. You'll breathe differently and you'll sleep differently. You'll stop living in fear. I want to start off by talking just about some of my stories. All right, I want to share some moments of my life, some real moments where a freedom fund stepped in like a silent bodyguard. I'll start with something that happened not too long ago. This is actually what inspired this episode. The other morning, I was sleeping. I heard this loud bang, like at 5 in the morning. Didn't know what it was. Jumped up out of bed. My wife and I, we were both startled by this. So I jump up. Sounded like it came from the garage. I go to the garage, check the garage. Everything looks in order. Go outside, make sure nothing's going on in the front of the house. Everything looks normal. No idea what it is. Kind of shrugged my shoulders, went back to bed. Woke up at about 8 o'clock, so about 3 hours later. I go, have this bright idea to go out and go pick up breakfast for my wife and I. So I go to the garage, try to open the garage door, instantly realize what the loud bang was. Apparently, the garage door spring has snapped into two. It ended up costing about $400 to get it fixed. Some people might panic. All right. Um, it was definitely an inconvenience to say the least because our cars were stuck in the garage. I didn't have any way to leave the house. All right. Now, because I had a freedom fund, this inconvenience, it really wasn't that bad. I was able to jump on the phone, find myself a garage door service company. Of course, they all wanted to charge me an emergency service fee since it was a Sunday morning. So, either way, I made the phone call. We got the garage door fixed. I was able to go on with my day. No stress, no guilt, no debt. And as a matter of fact, I actually had a massage scheduled for that day, I think around 11 o'clock. I was able to make it to my massage by 11. So it was actually a cool day. I didn't even, it bothered me, but it didn't ruin my day. Another instance where the Freedom Fund came into play. And this one's a little more serious. So I was hospitalized for 5 days a couple of years ago. Um, and to make matters worse, it wasn't just being in the hospital for 5 days, but there was also a major hurricane going through town during that time as well. So a lot of unexpected things were happening. But while I was in the hospital, you know, it was very unexpected. It was scary, and I knew it was going to be very expensive. But instead of me choosing, my health, well, having to choose between my health and my wallet, I was able to go to the hospital, got admitted into the hospital, went to the emergency room and all of that. Had to catch an ambulance they took me in an ambulance from the emergency room over to the real hospital. So that happened. And I spent 5 days there. And when everything had settled and the bills started to roll in, having that freedom fund, it made it bearable. While I was laying in the hospital bed, yeah, I definitely thought about the money. I was sitting there thinking, oh man, this is going to be expensive. This is going to ruin, this is going to ruin the finances. It actually turned out to be okay. Yes, it cost thousands of dollars, but we were able to get it paid. I was able to focus on my healing. And, it was the ability to take care of myself without falling apart. So that was a very nice, it was nice to have that peace of mind, even after leaving the hospital. Let's see, cars. Let's talk about cars real quick. We've all lived through some sort of car emergency. I think we can all relate to this one. I can't even think of one to pinpoint, but I guess I'll go to one where my wife and I, it's like we had to replace one of our cars. Actually, we ended up replacing two cars within a couple of months of each other. Um, my wife's car, she had an older car where the transmission went out. So we were able to go out and get her a new car. Uh, we did end up taking a loan out, but we were able to put down a nice hefty down payment, and the loan was more of a choice than a necessity. We just made the choice to take the loan and continue our investments. About a month after getting her car, my car started acting up. Here in Texas, you have to have your car inspected every year before you can register it. And if your check engine light is on, I mean, you can't get it inspected, and you're not going to get it registered. So I had this situation where, the air conditioning in the car was going out, and the check engine light just kept coming on. I mean, I tried to buy catalytic converters and spent more money than I probably should have on my older vehicle. But anyways, I ended up having to replace mine too. So we were able to quickly do the same thing. We were able to put down a down payment, nice down payment, to keep the monthly payments manageable. And it basically ended up replacing two cars at one time. Again, the emergency fund helped. Yes, we could have depleted the emergency fund to buy the two cars outright. We could have done that, but we chose our path, and after discussion, and it worked out well for us. Had the cars paid off within 2 years. The important thing to understand about that freedom fund is it stepped in. We were able to, we weren't forced to step into some predatory loans. Uh, we didn't have to max out credit cards. We were just able to make a decision on which car we wanted and do it that way. All right. Another instance. So I had a sick relative. I had an uncle who was not doing too well, and got a phone call that if I should probably make it out to New Jersey to go see him. And you know, I was able to fly out to see him. I actually was able to go with my wife. Um, the same day that we left, as soon as we landed back here in Houston, we get a phone call that he had passed away. So a week later, I was actually able to fly back to attend his funeral. That was two trips, two last minute flights. If I didn't have that freedom fund, I would have had, I would have had to choose between showing up for family or protecting my bank account. And because we had the freedom fund, it felt really good to not have to make a choice in that situation. I was able to go see him and, I was able to grieve without financial fear. The flip side of that, if we want to go back years later, want to go a few years back, many years back, my grandmother had passed away. And I was young. I had just moved to Houston. And that situation went completely different because I didn't have a freedom fund. Um, I was young, I was broke, but I was here in Houston, just moved here. And I get a call that my grandmother had passed away. And, I didn't have means to get on a plane to fly out to see her or to go to the funeral or any, just to spend time with family. And that bothered me. That was, I had a lot of guilt behind that. It sticks with me to this day. And, you know, I really wish I would have been better. I would have been more financially prepared back then because I could have handled that a lot differently. Now, the last one I'm gonna say is the last time, last situation here. There was a moment where I switched jobs a couple years ago. I switched school districts, since I'm a teacher, and not because I wasn't happy with where I was. I was actually very happy with where I was. It was just a 1 hour commute, and I wanted to work closer to home. So I applied and got a position, less than 5 miles away, and you know, it changed my commute time dramatically. But when I switched school districts, it took 2 months before I got a paycheck. And 2 months. I think most people would drown not getting paid, for 2 months. But because my wife and I had our freedom fund, it was able to carry us through. I was still able to pay off all the bills, still well with the help of my wife. Let me be very, very transparent. It makes a huge difference when you have two incomes coming into the house. So let me go to that first. But also understand that with the freedom fund, it was able to carry us through. Bills got paid, groceries got bought, life was able to keep moving. And that was all thanks to having that financial cushion. All right. So, what do these stories teach? We talked about, I talked about a home repair with the garage door, being hospitalized, um, family emergency where a relative passes away, replacing a car, actually two cars, and even going, without a paycheck for a couple of months. What do they all have in common? They all explain how emergencies are going to happen. And it's not that emergencies, it's not the emergencies that destroy people. It's the lack of preparation that ruins people's financial position. And a freedom fund is not really about the money. It's about having peace of mind, about having emotional stability and not letting life bully you. So when these emergencies pop up, they don't really come across, well, they do come across as emergencies, but it's really more of an inconvenience than an emergency. Like you end up in a better position to handle these situations. So when you have your freedom fund, you're gonna breathe a little differently, you'll sleep differently, you get to walk through life with a little more confidence, and you stop living in fear about about always worrying about what if, what's going to happen next. You still have that level, it doesn't disappear completely. You still have to think about your life and what could happen. You still have to manage that. But this financial fund, this freedom fund, it's the foundation of financial freedom. Not investing, not paying off debt, not some fancy budgeting app, but it's necessary to have protection first. Protection and security should come first. So that's what the Freedom Fund is all about. Let's now talk about how to build a Freedom Fund, because it's not difficult. There's really no magic pill here. You've probably heard these same steps before, but let's just talk about it. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is start small. You don't focus on a number as far as what you need. Well, we'll get to that in a moment. But just start small. Forget the idea of saving thousands of dollars. Instead, let's just make a quick, simple goal: $50, $100, $500, whatever you can afford. All right. Small wins will build momentum and it'll get you going. But start small. Now, next thing you want to do, you want to open up a separate account. Do not use your normal checking account. Whatever account you use to pay bills or to go out with, don't use that account. Open up a new savings account. If you want to make it if you want to open up an account through your same bank, you can. What I do and what I recommend opening up a high yield savings account with one of these online banks, such as Ally or SoFi. I don't know. There's quite a few of them out there. If you Google high yield savings account, you'll see you'll see multiple banks that offer them. I'm not affiliated with any of them, so I say choose whichever one is giving out the highest interest rate. All right. Um, that way you can make a little bit of money. It's not really an investment piece. This is more of a security piece in your financial portfolio. So choose you know choose one that gives a nice percentage. I think mine is currently at I think I'm currently getting paid like 3% on mine. At one point it was 5%, but it's like dropped down to 3% now. So it's still way better than all your big brick and mortar banks. So find you a good account, open up a savings account there, and then make your first transfer, whatever it is. Your $10, $25, $50, $100, whatever it is. It's not the amount that matters; it's the decision. So go ahead and put something in, and then here's the most important step: automate it. Go ahead and set up your withdrawals, or I should say your deposits. Every time you get paid. If you get paid every 2 weeks, just go ahead and every 2 weeks, as soon as you get paid, let a small amount go ahead and go to your savings account, go to your freedom fund. All right. It'll, that automation piece is going to remove all of the emotion and all of the excuses, and that'll be okay. You can celebrate. I have a step on here that says celebrate milestones, and you should. Every $100 saved is a victory. Every $500 could be a life changing cushion. So, whatever it is, go ahead and make celebrations every now and then. And here's another important step with your freedom fund. My last step here. When an emergency happens, I want you to hear me. Use your emergency fund or your freedom fund, whatever you want to call this. Use it and don't feel any guilt. When an emergency happens, use the fund. That's what it's there for. That's the purpose. All right. Now, once that happens, once you use it, just go back and refill it. That's all. Just slowly rebuild it. Just start over. It's okay. All right. Now, let's go to the next thing. I want to talk about why the Freedom Fund is the foundation of your financial freedom. All right. So before I go in here, I actually want to give you some. I want to give you some statistics because I want to talk about how important this piece is to your financial freedom. So, some statistics. These statistics come from the Federal Reserve. This is a 2025 household survey where they use 2024 data. All right, so 2024. This data says 37% of Americans, 37%, that's over a third, cannot cover a $400 emergency without going into debt. 37% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without going into debt. A bank rate survey from 2025, it says that 27% of Americans have no emergency savings at all. And only 44% of Americans could cover a $1,000 emergency from their savings. So, what that tells me and what that should tell you, if 37% cannot cover $400 and only 44% of Americans can cover $1,000, I think it's safe to say that roughly one third of Americans would struggle with a $500 emergency. And over 25%, as I said earlier, 27% don't have any savings at all. So, by simply creating this emergency fund, you put yourself in a position to where you are doing better, basically, financially, than a third of the United States. That's crazy to think about. So, if even if you set a modest goal of $1,000, that would put you in a position of over a third of the United States. Interesting. So just understand, it's a very important piece to financial freedom. When I talk about some of the people who I look up to, such as Dave Ramsey, two of his 7 baby steps are related to emergency funds. His first step, baby step 1, is $1,000 emergency fund. And then after you pay off your debt in baby step 2, he says baby step 3 should be 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So that's kind of in 3 to 6 months. That's kind of the accepted norm for most financial experts. That they'll tell you to aim somewhere between 3 to 6 months of expenses. So at some point, yes, you'll want to build it to that point, but just understand that it is a key to your financial freedom. All right. Now, understand that you can't build wealth if every emergency knocks you back to zero. You can't invest consistently if your car breaks down and that wipes out all of your investment progress. You can't pay off debt if one hospital bill is going to send you right back into more debt. And you can't dream about the future if you're always terrified about tomorrow. So, the Freedom Fund is the foundation because it removes a lot of that. It protects your progress. It prevents new debt from coming in. It reduces stress. It creates stability. It's going to offer you a lot more options, and it's going to help you build confidence. So, financial freedom is not built on income, it is built on security. And this emergency or freedom fund is what's going to give you that security. All right. It's kind of like your personal insurance policy. Now, I recommend that you start today. If you do not have any emergency savings, I strongly encourage you to start your freedom fund today. Don't wait until next month. Don't wait for life to calm down. All right. Whenever you transfer money into that account, just know that you're basically telling your future self, hey, I've got you covered. All right. And, being prepared, it's going to be, it's going to take away. Being prepared is going to help you out every time. Before we wrap up, I wanted to speak directly to the part of you that's tired of feeling blindsided by life. All right. I've been there. I'm sure you've been there at some point. You don't need a tax refund to start your freedom fund. You don't need to wait for your Christmas bonus. You don't need to wait. You don't need a perfect moment. Really, you just need today. Now, whenever you can get a big influx of money, that can help because you can, it's there. And I would definitely recommend earmarking some of it for your emergency fund. But, you know, if that's not the case, it's okay. Emergencies, they're not going to wait for the right timing. They're not going to wait for your paycheck to hit your bank account. And your preparation, it shouldn't wait either. So the truth is most people, they, when I talked about the 27% of Americans that don't have any emergency saving, they're waiting for some big chunk of money to magically appear because then they'll put it over into a new savings account. But the Freedom Fund is it's not, it shouldn't be built in big chunks. Just start small, steadily, just be steady and constant and automatically putting money into it every time you get paid. And you're going to notice it'll grow pretty quickly. So here's my challenge. Before today ends, you know, just move something into a separate savings account. Go ahead and open up a savings account and just put something in it. It could be $20. Whatever you can do without breaking your budget. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for next month. Don't wait for when things calm down. Just start it today and set it up to where you're setting up your next deposit. Get that automatic and just let it grow. Just let it grow. All right? What you're doing is you're basically choosing preparation over fear, and you're choosing to stop drowning and start building a life where emergencies don't own you anymore. Instead, they just become minor inconveniences. So your freedom fund, it begins with one decision. Make it today. Closing, you guys, emergencies are going to come. Life is going to hit hard. Drowning doesn't have to be your story. You can build a life where these emergencies don't break you. They just inconvenience you. So your freedom fund, you guys, freedom fund. It's your first step to becoming truly unshackled.